So what we spoke about in the last 2 weeks was about really how Rosh Hashanah looked like in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. Then we spoke about the evolution of Rosh Hashanah into Yom Din. And then we start talking about the Tosefta, if you remember the Tosefta and the Mishnah regarding the structure. So we'll continue with that, and then we will try to summarize it and to come up with some kind of conclusions. So on page 10, it says the following. Amar Rava, Hai Tana Dve Rabbi Ishmael, the Tana Dve Rabbi Ishmael, בארבעה פרקים העולם נידון. So Rabbi Ishmael says that there are 4 times a year that the world is being judged. בפסח על התבואה, during Pesach on the harvest, בעצרת על פירות האילן, on the fruits, the trees, בחג נידונים על המים, ואדם נידון בראש השנה, and a person is being judged on ראש השנה, וגזר דין שלו נחתם, and is being signed when ביום הכיפורים. חיכתני מתניתין עד תחילת דין. Okay. Now, there is something very interesting when you look at the structure here, in terms of content and structure. The content is 3 out of 4 are talking about what? Agriculture. Everything that has to do with agriculture, harvest, trees, water. And men is nothing to do with agriculture, it's about what? If you're going to make it next year or not. Okay, so that's a little different, that's A. And B, it should say, בפסח על התבואה, בעצרת על פירות האילן, בחג הנידונים על המים, בראש השנה, האדם נידון, לחיים ולמוות. You see that from the language, it seems to be a bit different. I'm not saying that it's totally off, but it's a little different. Now, the thing is that obviously there is a question, and the question is, why do we need a special day for judgment? We should have a day of judgment. We have a day of judgment every day. How do I know that we have a day of judgment every day? The what? Pirkei Avot, Tfilot, almost everything that we do. We don't wait to be good only on Rosh Hashanah, hopefully. Right? We are trying to be good every day. So it seems to be that there is a special need for this special day. So Amar Rav Chizda, Mai te'ama? The Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi, if you remember, he says that Adam nidon bechol yom. A person is being judged every day. כדכאמר תמה ותפקדנו לבקרים, אנא נחי כאמרינן. מאי תמה לא אמר כרבי נתן בחינה עיוני בעלמא או פקידה נמי עיוני בעלמא. So basically the Gemara says, if you turn to page 11, I had to put the sources like that, Rabbi Yossi אומר, אדם נידון בכל יום. Rabbi Yossi says what? A person is being judged every day. שנאמר ותפקדנו לבקרים, you will judge him every morning. רבי נתן אומר, אדם נידון בכל שעה, every hour, not every day, every hour, שנאמר לרגעים תבחננו. So obviously the question is, why do we need a special day, especially according to Rabbi Natan? If I'm being judged every hour, why do I need to be judged again, especially on Rosh Hashanah? If I'm being judged every day, also the same question. So why do we need a special day? So what I want you to do is that we're going to skip a bit and take a look on page 12. Do you see the title? It says a hashtala. What is hashtala? Implant. Exactly. Okay, implant. Now, implant in the Mishnah. What does that mean? So, take a look. The Mishnah says like that. בארבעה פרקים העולם נידון. There are 4 times of the year that the world is being judged. בפסח על התבואה, בעצרת על פירות האילן, בראש השנה, כל באי עולם עוברים לפניו כבני מרון, שנאמר היוצר יחד ליבם המבין כל מעשיהם, which means who fashions their hearts alike, who considers all their deeds, ובחג, and on Sukkot, נידונים על המים. Now, this is a Mishnah, a Tanach source. And the Mishnah says there are 4 times a year that the world is being judged, right? Okay. Take number 3. בראש השנה, erase it. What will be the structure of the Mishnah? and I'll change one word. בשלושה פרקים העולם נידון. There are 3 times that the world is being judged. פסח על התבואה, עצרת על פירות האילן, ובחג נידונים על המים, which means during Pesach on the harvest, עצרת, trees, חג, סוכות, water. Would that make sense? Yeah. What does not make sense? The 4th one. Meaning the 3rd one, which is the 4th one. בראש השנה. You see the language again and again, the language does not fit. If in the Rabbi Ishmael, what we saw on page 12, where there it says what? ואדם נידון בראש השנה. נידון. Okay, 4 פרקים העולם נידון, and אדם נידון is being judged. בסדר, I can understand it. But here, you don't even have the word what? נידון. What do you have? כל באי עולם עוברים לפניו כבני מרון. Meaning every human goes like a bnei maron, whatever that means, like let's say a lamb or a sheep in a flock, okay? And he and God look at them. Okay, I can understand that the interpretation of looking at them is being judged, but it doesn't say it here. Now we need to go through a little bit of an analysis of a Mishnah. Can you agree with me that, רגע, okay, לאט לאט. We spoke about the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, right? Okay, Ezra and Nehemiah are when? After Beit HaMikdash HaRishon, okay? After the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash HaRishon, 70 years in Bavel, and they are coming back, okay? So basically what the Tanach describes is what? Is that in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, Rosh Hashana was the day of what? Of reading the Torah, food, drink, and mishloach manot. Does not say that they didn't blow the shofar, but it didn't say that they what? They did. Okay, so we don't know. You can assume yes, you can assume no. Okay, we saw that. The second thing that we saw was that the idea of Rosh Hashanah, which we have the shofar, the Torah describes it as Zichron Teruah and Yom Teruah. What we did in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whenever it was, we discussed the idea of Teruah. When exactly did we use the trumpets and the shofarot? So we saw based on Tanach, not Torah Sheba'al Peh. Chatzotzot were used when? Milchama, a war, or what? Chatzotzot, trumpets. Gathering people. To gather people, or to what? Or war. Which both, or especially in war, the nature of the trumpets will be what? Din, fear. There is something that it's coming up, right? The shofar, we blew the shofar when? On Yovel. And that was associated not with fear, but rather with what? With joy, freedom, salvation, redemption, something that it's pretty nice. And then what do you have? You have, that was Torah Shebichtav. Okay? That was Torah Shebichtav. Torah Sheba'al Peh comes along and says what? We have Ta'aniyot, fast days. We have Yovalim, your jubilees. And we have what? Rosh Hashanah. We're going to do the following. Dafka in the Bet Midrash I have a board so I could write. But what are we going to do? Okay, we take the word Teruah, Yom Teruah, and Teruah is associated with what? With the Chatzotzot. However, we make a hekesh between what? Between Yovel and Rosh Hashanah. So we have what? Some kind of a koi. What is a koi? We're not sure if it's an animal or a beast. Okay? We're not sure. We created a kilaim. We created a day that we use a shofar, but we use some kind of a component of chatzotzot. Therefore, if you remember the Torah Sheba'al Peh, what we spoke about the Mishnayot, we have sometimes the shofar will be in the middle and the chatzotzot will be on the sides, and the kol shofar is the stronger one, and sometimes it's going to be what? The opposite. Okay. Then we also saw that in the time of the Tanaim, and they are all Tanaim in the time of Rabbi Akiva's, after Rabbi Akiva's basically death or murder, which would mean after 135, they are all discussing what? The type of the shofar and how is that going to look like. What does that mean? If you remember, do we need the shofar shel ayil or kol shofar or any shofar? Does the shofar needs to be pashut or kafuf, bent over or straight? And all of those discussions are for what? Do you think really God cares if that's going to be a bent shofar or a straight shofar? What all were they trying to do, the rabbis? To try to do what? To define Rosh Hashanah as a day of, that's the problem. Day of what? Oh, יפה מאוד. A day of judgment or a day of celebration or a day of celebration of judgment. That's very connected to my shiurim in the afternoon, Shabbat afternoon here, for the last, I think, 2 weeks or whatever it is. We have a problem. We don't have a Beit Mikdash. Beit Mikdash is gone, 70. It's gone. The rabbis, and now most of the Chachamim are gone, okay, after 135. But there is some kind of a rejuvenation. And now we need to define this Chag. So it becomes more and more as a day of judgment. We see it already with Rabbi Ishmael, a colleague of Rabbi Akiva, and we definitely see it in the Mishnayot. Now, therefore, I would like to suggest the following. The Mishnah was, in terms of the structure, was, as I suggested before, Bishlosha prakim haolam nidon. Only 3 times the world is being judged. Pesach al hatvua, Pesach on the harvest, Atzeret, Shavuot on the trees, Sukkot on the water, וזהו. And that's what it's called, העולם נידון, not האדם, העולם. Perfect. However, we have what? 4 ראשי שנים. And we have 4 פרקים העולם נידון. So what do you put as the 4th one? You put the Adam. And when you put the Adam, even the structure of the Adam, it's problematic. Why? If I was the Baal Tana, if I was the author of the Mishnah, you know how would I define it? בפסח על התבואה, בעצרת על פירות האילן, בראש השנה האדם נידון לחיים ולמוות, ובחג נידונים על המים. Sounds good? Sounds great. I think. I mean, in my humble opinion, I think I did right. Right? I did pretty good. But the Mishnah does not do it. Why not? Because, and this is the second assumption I have, you can disagree with it, by the way, this one, בראש השנה כל באי עולם עוברים לפניו כבני מרון, that's from another Mishnah. That's from another Tanaic source that basically start developing the idea of what? The idea that Rosh Hashanah becomes Yom Din. So if we're talking about judgment, we're going to what? To be mashtil, to plant it in the Mishnah, and then we're going to have what? ב4 פרקים העולם נידון. Which means, now leave alone this entire structure, basically my claim is that only in the middle of the 2nd century, 3rd century, so 2nd century, in the middle of the 2nd century, around let's say 150, Rosh Hashanah becomes more and more of what? Of Yom Din. A day of judgment. I will tell you, that's related a little bit to my Shabbat afternoon class, this split between is that Yom Din or Yom Melucha is a split between Ashkenazim and Sfaradim and also Mitnagdim v'Chasidim. If you go to a Hasid shul, okay, how do they call it? Chabad, for example, how do they call it? Naftali, how Rosh Hashanah is being called by Chabad? Yom HaHamlacha. Crowning. It's crowning. Not Crown Heights. Crowning. Crowning. This is Yom HaMlacha. You come and you are so happy. You need to be happy. Why are you happy? Because you are the one to crown Hashem as a king on you. Even the Ashkenazim between us, the Mitnagdim, even when you go to yeshivot, one of the songs that we don't miss is what? Ve'itnu lecha keter melucha. And we all jump. I still remember when I was in yeshiva and I would go there for Chagim. Wow, this song would last for 10 minutes. And everyone will be off their seats. Okay? Ve'itnu lecha keter melucha. We, with all our nothingness, we are the ones to what? To crown Hashem as a king on us. This is not a day of judgment. It's a great tune, right? So the idea is, and also wake you up from, from all this melancholy of, you're going to die. What are we? We are nothing. We are ashes. We are, So the idea is that according to the Chassidut, for example, and it's not only Chabad, it's the idea of what? Of I am the one to crown Hashem as a king on me. Or if you go to the Tur, for example, Rabbi Yaakov Balaturim in the 14th century, the son of the Rosh, he's talking about what? He's bringing a midrash that you can't understand this nation. Every time you have a day of judgment, what do? You dress black, you are worried, you are in agony, whatever. And here, we hear about what? Rosh Hashanah, what do? We put our new clothes, we come with white, we are happy, and we know that we're going to what? To be saved. Meaning Rosh Hashanah is definitely a component of what? Of happiness and joy. But you cannot deny the fact it's what? It's still a day of judgment. It's a day of judgment. So therefore, you see that Chazal tried to do what? To find the right balance. And there are many ramifications. I'll give you one. On Rosh Hashanah, do you say Chag Sameach? You say Chatima Tova, Ktiva v'Chatima Tova, right? Even though you shouldn't say Chatima Tova because your Chatima should be Yom Kippur, that's what it says here, Yom Kippur. Only later on Chazal says what? Tzadikim gmurim nichtavim v'nechtamim le'altar l'chaim tovim. And then the others are on Yom Kippur. But, so do you say Chag Sameach? No. בדרך כלל לא, right? Usually you don't say Chag Sameach. Okay? That's crowning. Okay? That's the Chatzotzrot. So the thing is what? Is that we have the trumpets. So it means what? So you don't call it Chag Sameach, but rega. If you go to the Torah, it says, Ele הם מועדיי, these are my holidays, and you have Shabbat, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, surprise, surprise, Rosh Hashanah ve Yom Kippur. So it's a moed. You should say Agit moed. Nachon? Yeah, but there I can. It's really kara alai moed, and it's a. But when you think about it, we have on Rosh Hashanah, and I brought in Shabbat afternoon class. I brought other examples like V'todienu when it falls on Motzei Shabbat, or Ve'asiyenu. But the idea is that Chachamim are struggling with how should I define this day. So we have both. We have the idea of judgment, and we have the idea of mamash celebration. Not just like not to be afraid. Mamash simcha. I don't want to burst your bubble. Anyone here is a Sephardi? Mizeh shanim rabot. You sure? You didn't convert to be a Sephardi. Because you want to eat rice, right? So, do you say unetane tokef? Oy vey. It's good that you sit there. Very good. You see, there are Jews who do not say unetane tokef. You know what? Because I mentioned unetane tokef, I'll say a few words about it. You don't mind. Even if you do, you don't have any other choices, it's fine. I'll tell you something about unetane tokef. Many people think that unetane tokef was composed by Rabbi Amnon Mimagenza, right? In the 11th century or 12th century, probably the time of the Crusaders, and when they came and they destroyed the three main centers of Judaism in Germany, Kehilot, what we call Shum, Speyer, Magenza, Worms. Okay, and we all remember the story that they cut his fingers, and okay. It's not true. Not that the story, I'm not sure if the story is true or not. We found a very similar poem like this one in the Gniza Kahirit, in the Cairo Geniza, which means it's way before. So what do we do? So first and foremost, how do we know about this poem of Unetane Tokef? Obviously, Rabbi Amnon Mimagenza didn't send us an email with this poem. So how do we know about it? From Rabbi Yitzchak Mivina, Baal HaOr Zarua. The Or Zarua, who was not from Vienna, but he died in Vienna, he writes it in his book. Towards the end of the book, he brings this poem. And there are different manuscripts that talks a little bit about a different story, how exactly it was composed, when exactly it was said, and all of that. Now, what's the idea of Unetane Tokef? Why are we all getting excited? Not only because the Chazan is going to sing it for 15 minutes, but why? Because this is the essence of the day. Malachim yechafezun, chil ure'ada. What is chil ure'ada? Fear, shaking, people are trembling, they are anxious. And the what? Kivnei Maron, we have no idea what's going on with us. And especially in years like that, mi yechye, mi yamut, mi bamavet, mi ba'esh, mi b'mayim, mi b'cherev, mi b'chaya. This is basically the pinnacle of the Musaf that dictates, to some extent, the nature of the day. Now, imagine Rosh Hashanah without it. So what are you saying there? Like, what kind of tefillot do you have on Rosh Hashanah? Long. Give me a piyut that describe not fear, but wonderful relationship with Hashem. No, from the Sfardim. Instead of Unetane, what is the pinnacle poem on Rosh Hashanah? There is no one. Yom Kippur. I don't know, you don't say Unetane Tokef Bichlal. But give me a poem from Yom Kippur. I know. I'm not a Sfardi. Achot Ktana. Did you sing it? I can't hear you. El Nora Alila. Oh, by the way, we are going to sing it here. This year, before Neila. Before Ashrei, we are going to sing it. Why? Someone asked me a year ago and I said, maybe not. This year, I want to show unity. We're going to sing a Sephardi song here. Neila. Kel Nora Alila, Kel Nora Alila, Hamtzila Nu Mechila, Bishat Neila. This is the what do you call it? But there are a few batim. And one of the batim, which I liked so much, it says what? Something about the fathers and the children, the banim ubanot, tachtemem lechaim tovim uleshalom, to sign them for peace. We Ashkenazim, until the end of Ne'ilah, we are like still trembling. And I said, you know what? We should have this song. It talks about families. It talks about children. The tune is a beautiful tune, which is a happy tune. It's not like, the burden of all the crusaders are like on you. Oh, we will teach them, don't worry. We will send them a YouTube before. Oh, he said that we will not know the tune. We will know, don't worry. We know now, we do a lot of slichot meshulav. So we also say some slichot Sfaradiot. But now, why is it that there is such a difference between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim in terms of the nature of the day? You should come to the shiur on Shabbat afternoon. for 3 weeks I'm building it up, that people don't know what's going on. Bezrat Hashem, this week we're going to solve the mystery. At least we will suggest a few ideas. But let's go back to our shiur. The idea is that the Tanaim realize that what? That they need to have more of a day of judgment as Rosh Hashanah, and not necessarily only a day of what? Of celebration. Now, take a look at the next source on page 12. Tanya, אמר רב יהודה משום רבי עקיבא, מפני מה אמרה התורה אביהו עומר בפסח? Why is it that the Torah says that you should bring Omer, the Korban HaOmer, during Pesach time? מפני שהפסח זמן תבואה הוא. Because Pesach is the time of what? Of bringing, not only judging, it's also the time for, what do you call it? Harvest. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, אביהו לפני עומר בפסח, כדי שתתברך לכם תבואה שבשדות. Bring me Omer, so I will bless the harvest in the sadot, in the fields. ומפני מה אמרה תורה הביאו שתי הלחם בעצרת, and why the Torah says that you need to bring the 2 breads on during Shavuot, מפני שהעצרת זמן פירות האילן, because that's the time for what? For the trees to have fruits. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, הביאו לפני שתי הלחם בעצרת, bring for me the 2 breads during the Shavuot, כדי שיתברכו לכם פירות האילן. Page 13. מפני מה אמרה תורה הביאו עומר בפסח, מפני שהפסח זמן תבואה. מפני מה אמרה תורה הביאו שתי לחם בעצרת, מפני שהעצרת זמן פירות האילן. מפני מה אמרה תורה נסחו מים בחג, אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, נסחו לפניהם מים בחג, כדי שיתברכו לכם גשמי שנה. Why did I see that? You see, it's underlines. מפני מה? What is מפני מה? Why? מפני מה? מפני מה? מפני מה? The 3. Same language. אמרה תורה, אמרה תורה, אמרה תורה. And then you have what? אומר, what is that? שתי לחם וניסוח מים, the water libation. And then, ואמרו לפניי בראש השנה מלכויות, זיכרונות ושופרות, מלכויות כדי שתמליכוני עליכם, זיכרונות כדי שיעלה זיכרונכם לטובה, ובמה? בשופר. Do you see how, even if you don't understand the Hebrew, just the structure, מפני מה, why, and then, tell me, you see that it doesn't fit. השתלה. יפה. You learned all a Hebrew word. השתלה. That's a dental word, but that's more expensive. So here is a השתלה במשנה. Does not cost us too much money. Okay? And we basically planted in the Mishnah because we are changing the day. So if we talk about times that the world is being judged, no, I'm putting in another time, which is what? Which is the Adam. And there you see something interesting. It's not מפני מה אמרה תורה. It's why we, the rabbis, are telling you to say on Rosh Hashanah מלכויות, זיכרונות ושופרות. So מלכויות כדי שתמליכוני עליכם, that you will crown me as your king. זיכרונות, so I will remember you for good. And what? In what way? With the shofar. Meaning both of them. And this is, by the way, the Ritva. The Ritva says that the shofar is being used for both, for the malchuyot and for the zichronot. The malchuyot you do with shofar, and this is, by the way, we know. How do we know that? How do we know that you are crowning a king with shofar? Matai? B'diuk, you look at the Tanach. What do? They take him to a river, and they take a pach shemen, not from Chanukah, a pach shemen, to anoint him, and they blow the shofar. Why a river? כדי שתימשך מלכותו. Like a water flow forever, שתימשך מלכותו. It's all symbolic. So basically you take the shofar, and you crown Hashem as a king on you with the shofar. You remind God of your existence and your zchuyot through shofar. Why shofar? Because that reminds him of what? Of Akedat Yitzchak. יפה מאוד. So you bring the Akedah into Rosh Hashanah as well, and in the Akedah itself, you also have both components, and also with Melech you have both components. On one hand you have Simcha, and on the other hand you have what? Din. Why the Akedah there is a Simcha and Din? The Din is obviously the trial, terrible, but the Simcha is what? Utmurato Ayil. That the Ayil, the ram, was in exchange of Yitzchak. So you have both. So the entire idea of Rosh Hashanah is both. Now, let me see. Okay. Take a look on page 14. I'm skipping a bit. בסדר. 14. Look at the Midrash Tanchuma. Middle of the page. Amale. So Avram, the Midrash describes the conversation that was between Avram and Hashem. Okay, the Torah does not describe anything. Nothing. Hashem says to Avram, Avram, ויאמר הנני, אל תשלח ידך אל הנער ואל תעש לו מאומה, don't touch the child. Okay. But the Midrash says there was a conversation between Avram and God. אמר לי, כשם שהיה בליבי מה להשיבך ולומר לך אתמול אמרת לי כי ביצחק יקרא לך זרע. עכשיו אתה אומר לי עלהו שם לעולה וכבשתי את יצרי, I will translate in a minute, ולא ישבתיך כך שהיו בניו של יצחק חוטאים ונכנסים לצרה, תהא נזכר להן עקדתו של יצחק ותחשב לפניך כאילו עפרות צבור על גבי המזבח ותסלח להם ותפדם מצרתן. Avram says to Hashem, look, when you told me to take my beloved son and to bring him as a sacrifice, I thought for a second, what is going on here? You told me, כי ביצחק יקרא לך זרע, which means what? Yitzhak will be your descendant. He will be your legacy. Day later, you tell me what? Kill him. Sacrifice him. Even though, by the way, Hashem never told Abraham to sacrifice Yitzhak. It says, ve'a'aleu le'olah. Now, I understand. When someone is being told, ve'a'aleu le'olah, the first things that comes to mind, obviously, is what? Is a sacrifice, okay? Not only just to put him on the altar and then take him down. But Hashem never said, הקריבהו לעולה. Okay. So, Avram says to Hashem, look, I did not question you. I had all those doubts, but I was able to control myself and to overcome my desire to ask what's going on here. So I overcame my questions, and therefore I'm asking you that whenever Yitzchak's children are sinning, you need to think that I really sacrificed Yitzchak, and you will see the ashes on the altar, and you will remember it, and you will forgive them. אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא, אתה אמרת את שלך, ואומר אני את שלי. You said your piece, now it's my turn. עתידין בניו של יצחק לחטוא לפניי. I know that the Yitzchak's descendants are going to sin. ואני דן אותם בראש השנה. And I'm judging them when? On ראש השנה. אלא אם מבקשים שאחפש להם זכות, and if they asking me to what? To find for them זכויות, אזכור להם עקדת יצחק. I will remember עקדת יצחק. יהיו תוקעים לפניי בשופר של זה. They should what? They blow the shofar. אמר לו, מהו השופר? So Avram says, what shofar are you talking about? אמר לחזור לאחוריך. Look behind you or go back. מיד וישא אברהם את עיניו וירא והנה איל אחר נאחז בסבך בקרניו. So he saw the ram and then he understood what kind of a shofar you want. Okay. According to that, this is something very interesting. We all think that the shofar is to remind us of what? Of Akedat Yitzchak. And what in Akedat Yitzchak we want to remind God? What part of Akedat Yitzchak do we want to, quote unquote, remind Hashem so He will remember and have compassion over us? Rega, that's what the Midrash says. But what is the simple understanding is what? Is that the what? The substitution that came a little later. That Avram followed these instructions, right? You need to remember Avram's commitment, and therefore forgive us. According to the Midrash, it's not so much about that part, it's about not questioning. That gives a little bit of a different color and nature to Rosh Hashanah. You blow the shofar and you are asking God, we didn't question when things were a little strange for us. We are asking you to do what? Think about it. Avram went for 3 days trip with this thing in mind. Not about putting Yitzchak on the altar. Just, how can I even believe in that God? Why am I saying that? First, Hashem says, but let's build it up. First, I believe in a God that does not think that we need to sacrifice children. Avram was totally against it. Okay, so that's one. I'm sure that every tour guide told you when you went through Gay Ben Hinnom, that why it's called Gay Ben Hinnom, because that's when they will sacrifice their children to the Baal or to the fire or whatever it is, and they will play the drums, and it will be a lot of noise so you don't hear the screams of the children. And Avram had to take Yitzchak with him to where? From Ramat HaNatziv, from Armon HaNatziv, to the Temple Mount. Okay, so he had to go through that valley, and people did whatever they did. And when they asked him, "No, you bringing your child?" He says, "No, I'm not bringing my child here. I'm taking him to sacrifice him where? On the Temple Mount." But didn't you say that your God does not believe in children's sacrifices? Oh yeah, but he changed his mind. A problem. So there is what I will call an ideological, theological issue that Avram has, and the second one is what? It's just, do I understand God correctly? On one hand, he says, "B'Yitzchak yikareh lecha zera," and on the other hand, he says to me, what? Bring him as a sacrifice. So Avram had to go through all of that in 3 days, and God does not communicate with him. So after 3 days, Avram sees this cloud or whatever it is, and he goes to the Temple Mount and he brings Yitzchak. And then the moment he is about to what? To slaughter him, Hashem says to him, what? It's not even God. He's a malach. He's an angel. An angel comes along and says, don't touch the child. Which is basically shows the emunah, the tremendous amount of faith that Avram had. So what we are asking Hashem to remember is this tremendous emunah that we have despite everything that is going on. I think this message is very relevant in today's life in Tafshin Pei Daled, Tichle Shana V'Kilelotea, Tachel Shana V'Birchotea, that we have such an emunah that we believe that there is going to be redemption. Now, okay, page 15. Page 15. I called it השיטה המשלבת. Hybrid. We all like hybrid today, right? So in Vayikra Rabbah, which is a Midrash Haggadah, it's pretty early Midrash Haggadah that was composed in Israel around 6th century. He says, 5th, 6th, maybe. Vayikra Rabbah, it says like that. Nimtzeta, that's like in the middle of the page. Nimtzeta אתה אומר. So you will say, ביום ראש השנה, בשעה ראשונה, on the first hour of Rosh Hashanah, עלה במחשבה, Hashem thought about what? Creating Adam. בשנייה נתייעץ עם מלאכי השרת. The second hour he consulted with the ministering angels. בשלישי כנס הפרעון. The third hour he assembled the earth that Adam will be created from. ברביעי גובלו. On the fourth hour he basically cemented this material. בחמישי רקמו, בשישי עשהו גולם, בשביעי נפח בו נשמה. On the 7th hour he instilled in him a living soul. בשמיני הכניסו לגן. On the 8th hour he put him in Gan Eden. בתשיעי נצטווה. On the 9th hour he was commanded not to eat from that tree. An hour later, whatever that means, it's not 60 minutes, he obviously disobeyed. ב-11 נידון. On the 11th hour he was judged. On the 12th hour יצא בדימוס. What is יצא בדימוס? He was exonerated. He was exonerated. כך עתידין אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא לאדם. So Hashem says to Adam, זה סימן לבניך. This is a sign for your children. כשם שעמדת לפניי בדין היום הזה ויצאת בדימוס, the same way you were judged today and you were exonerated, he was punished, but he didn't, quote unquote, he didn't die. כך עתידין בניך לעמוד לפניי בדין ביום זה. For generations, your children are going to what? To be judged on this day, ויוצאים לפניי בדימוס. And they will be exonerated. מתי? When? בחודש השביעי, באחד לחודש. On the 7th month, on the first day, which is obviously Rosh Hashana. Now, רגע. Who are אדם הראשונ's children? Everybody. Not only Jews, right? And that's what we see in the Mishnah. כל באי עולם עוברים לפניך כבני מרון. כל באי עולם means what? Everyone. So how come it became only our? It's too hard. They don't know. Rejection. One of the explanations is that basically it's really for everyone, but they don't know. We are the true descendant. We are the chosen group to follow in Adam Arishon's footsteps in order to bring the entire humanity back to Adam Arishon. Which means, this is what we call in Sefer Bereshit. Adam Arishon had, Cain and Hevel, and from there on you have all the people. And basically, God realized after a while that you can't trust humanity at large. What do you need to do? You need to select a group. So we selected individuals first, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov's family, and then the nation of Israel. They are what we call a descendants of Adam. There is a hope for the other nations. They can also become part of Adam, but they need to have to go through some kind of a process. And in conclusion, take a look at Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. So, according to Vayikra Rabbah, it's a day of judgment. Judgment, but also an exoneration, but judgment. In Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, it says the following: וגיבל גוש עפרו של אדם הראשון במקום טהור בטיבור הארץ. God assembled Adam הראשון in the middle of the country, in the middle of Israel, in a pure place. רקמו ותחנו ורוח נשמה לא הייתה בו. מעשה הקדוש ברוך הוא נפח ברוח נשמת חיים. ועמד אדם והיה מסתכל כלפי מעלה ומטה וראה כל הבריות שברא הקדוש ברוך הוא. So then, Adam הראשון is being created, and he looks left and he looks right, and he see all the creatures that God created. And והיה תמה בליבו, and he was wondering, look what's going on around me, it's beautiful. So what does he do? התחיל משבח ומפאר ליוצרו. He start what? Praising and singing to Hashem. ואמר, מה רבו מעשיך השם? קם על רגליו, stood up, והיה בתואר כדמות אלוקים. He was in the image of God. והייתה קומתו מן המזרח למערב. He was so tall that it basically reached what? From the east to west. שנאמר, אחור וקדם צרתני. אחור זה מערב וקדם זה קדמה מזרחה. וראו אותו כל הבריות ונתייראו מלפניו. סבורים שהוא בוראן ובאו להשתחוות לפניו. So all the creatures saw this Adam. He looked amazing. Like מראה כהן גדול. So all the creatures, all the animals, everyone gathered together and basically wanted to worship him. Because they thought he is the one who created them. אמר להם אדם. So Adam says to them, מה באתם להשתחוות בנו? Why did you come? So they come and they told him, so we came here to bow down to you. He says, no. בואו, come. אני ואתם, you and I, ונלך ונלביש גאות ועוז. We're going to dress with strength and dignity, ונמליך עלינו למי שבראנו. We're going to crown the king that created us. ואם אין עם ממליכים את המלך, הוא ממליך עצמו, ואם אין עם מקלסים את המלך, המלך מקלס את עצמו. He says, a king is only a king when he has what? A nation. If a king does not have a nation, he's a king on whom? On no one, only on his own, maybe. So the idea is, Adam HaRishon says, come with me and we're going to crown the true king. באותה שעה פתח אדם את פיו. At that moment, Adam opened up his mouth. וענו כל הבריות אחריו, and all the other creatures spoke after him, והלבישו גאות ועוז, והמליכו עליהן ליוצרן, ואמרו, השם מלך גאות לבש. We say it every Friday night. And this is the שיר של יום for יום שישי, the day of Adam's creation. So what do you see from here? Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer does not talk about day of judgment. It talks about what? Day of crowning Hashem as a king on us. And that's what we say as part of the tefillot. Yakiru v'yed'u kol yoshvei tevel. Say it in Alenu Shabbat, but on Rosh Hashana, it's very nocheach, it's very present in the davening. That we want everyone to recognize God. So, what was the evolution of Rosh Hashanah? Went through a lot. Rosh Hashanah went through a lot. From Ezra and Nehemiah, through what I will call the first stage of Torah Shebe'al Peh, and the second stage of Torah Shebe'al Peh, like Ezra and Nehemiah will call it the first stage, second stage after the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash HaSheni. Later on in the time of the Amoraim, maybe even the implementation to implement something in the Mishnah in order to create some kind of a different nature to Rosh Hashanah. We spoke about the split between Sfaradim, Ashkenazim, Mitnagdim, Hasidim, and we see that it's really in the early Midrashim talking about how you try to combine and intertwine, integrate, whatever you want to call it, between the component of judgment and the component of crowning Hashem as a king on us. That's for today.